Hey guys, welcome to Herding Little Cows. Yeah, he just finished eating, so he burped. This is our birth story video. So this little guy, Gideon, is now 17 days old. And I wanted to share what happened. And it's all really good. It's all very real. And I'm going to keep it very G-rated so that nobody will get bothered by this story. I know some people are very bothered by birth stories and everything, but it was just an amazing example of how God has made our bodies to work, and the amazing gift that God gives us in being able to be women who get to carry these little ones for 9 months in our belly and then be able to go through the entire birth process. So this little guy, I went into labor on October 2nd. I woke up first thing in the morning. No signs the night before that anything in particular was different. Woke up the next morning and Josiah, our 9-year-old, who has epilepsy, had had a bad night the night before with seizures and was on, we had made a little bed on our floor in the middle of the night to be able to keep an eye on him after he'd had a bad seizure in the middle of the night. So this is our room. I sleep on that side of the bed, and there's a little bed made up on the floor over there for Malachi, who is our 2-year-old. He co-slept with us until just a few months ago, maybe 2 months ago. And we put him in the room with the boys, but I made a little bed up on the floor, and when he wakes up in the middle of the night, he can come in and lay on that little bed because I wanted to make sure he wasn't climbing in bed with us after this little guy was born. So Malachi was on the bed over there. Josiah was on the floor right here where my feet are right now, on Mark's side of the bed, so we could keep an eye on him. And both of them were sleeping in a little longer than normal. So the boys, well, all the kids are allowed to get up at 6 o'clock. They're usually awake before 6. I know, look. They're usually awake before 6, but they've been told that they can get out of their beds at 6 o'clock because otherwise they'd be wandering into my room at 4:30, 5 o'clock, whatever. So they were told they could are always told they could get up at 6 o'clock. Well, 6 o'clock came and they were all still asleep. So I got up and sat up on the edge of the bed at 6:11 in the morning and was just deciding whether I get up, because I know once I get up, sometimes everyone hears me and they want to get up too. The other boys who had been asleep in the other room were already awake and had gone to the living room. So I sat up on the edge of the bed, like, do I get up? Do I not get up? And while I was sitting there, I felt, it wasn't a pop like some people describe their water breaking, but I felt something that I was like, oh, that was a little weird. And decided, okay, I'm going to go in and use the bathroom. And as I stood up from the edge of the bed, I could feel some trickling of water. By the time I got to the bathroom, which is right on the other side of this wall, like you walk out my door and into the bathroom, like the next door is the bathroom door. By the time I got to the bathroom, I had leaked through my underwear. The floor was getting wet. So I sat down, used the bathroom, and continued to leak water. It was totally clear. There was no smell to it. For any women who are watching this, going into a labor and delivery, amniotic fluid, you need to look at the color and make sure there's no smell. Make sure, like, you want it to be clear. If it's brownish or greenish, baby has had a bowel movement inside, and that can be a cause of concern. It can also not be a cause of concern, but it's something that you need to let your midwife or doctor know about. So the only thing that was odd about mine was there was some vernix in it, which, depending on when baby comes, the vernix is the cheesy stuff that's on the outside of the baby when they come out that protects them from the amniotic fluid, and it's very good for their skin and everything. And depending on when baby's born, they may have a lot, they may have a little. I noticed that there was some in the fluid, but everything was fine. I got myself cleaned up, got a pad, and came back to tell Mark that my water had broken. I didn't tell the kids for, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, because I was waiting till everybody had gotten up and had done their things so I could tell everybody at the same time. So again, 6:11, 6:45, 7 o'clock, I told the kids that my water had broken and that baby would be coming today. For those who don't know, this was our ninth, it's hard to explain, our ninth baby. We had a stillbirth, and he had group B strep, which is something that women can carry, and it can affect the baby or maybe not affect the baby. But once you've had a baby who's been affected by it, they want to treat you with an antibiotic during labor to make sure that it causes no problems for the other baby. So I always agree to that so that there's less chance of our other babies being sick, even though no one else ever has. But baby can get the infection once your water's broken for longer periods of time. And so we're always just aware that we're going to have to speed up delivery if my water breaks and labor does not start. So I knew that baby was going to be born October 2nd, as my water broke so early in the morning. So I wanted to see if I could get labor established at home before we went to the hospital, because sometimes a woman's body can stop laboring if it feels uncomfortable, if it feels that there is some type of threat around it. And while I have had most of my babies at the hospital and feel very comfortable with our local hospital, there are certain midwives I like more than others. There are certain nurses that I like more than others. And then just being out of your normal sphere can also cause things to slow down. So I wanted to see if I could get labor established before we went to the hospital. So from 7 o'clock for a couple hours, I tried to get labor started. Didn't do anything crazy, didn't do castor oil or anything like that, but I took a shower and tried to relax. I sat on the birthing ball. So we have some stairs in our garage that aren't very steep. They're like this much. I tried to walk those sideways because it can help baby engage in the pelvis more. I wasn't sure exactly what position baby was in. I'll explain that more later. But last week, or not last week, but before he was born, like a week and a half before he was born, I had a night where I had terrible, it felt like back labor, but I wasn't having contractions in the front that I could tell. It just felt like a lot of pressure in the back. So I just wanted to see if I could get baby more engaged in the pelvis, down where he needed to be. So I was trying to do things on that Saturday of his birth to try to get him there. So walking the steps, I sat on a peanut ball. I sat kind of laying down with a peanut ball in between my legs to try to get my hips in the right position. Mark took the kids out for a little bit so I could just lay down and see if I could, just anything that might take my mind from the things here at home and dealing with the people at home, so that I could get into that labor world. I don't know how to explain it. And so that was just a really nice time to just pray and think about what was going to happen as the day went on. And the kids were very helpful getting food for people and all of that. So that day went well as I was here trying to get labor started. But labor didn't get started. I was going to say something else about that, but I forget. So anyway, we were going to have the girls. So we have 2 vehicles now, but on the day that my labor started, we only had 1 vehicle. The other vehicle was in the shop. So we were trying to decide exactly when to go in, exactly how I wanted to get over there. But we figured the easiest way would be for Virginia to load everybody up in the car. She was going to be watching all the kids while we were gone. So Virginia load everybody up in the car, take Mark and I over and drop us off, and then she'd have the car if she needed it. We weren't exactly sure how things were going to go, and Mark can't drive. So we wanted to make sure that she would have a ride to be able to come get him and all of that if necessary. But as we were deciding to get ready to head to the hospital, my mom wrote and said she was on her way home. She had been staying with a friend the night before. She lives out in the backyard. She had built herself a little house. So she wrote and said, I'm going to be home in 20 minutes, which would take about as much time as it would to get all the kids to get into the car and us to get over there. So we just decided to wait and let Grandma take us to the hospital, so that the car would still be here. In all of this time, I don't know, around 11 or so, I called the hospital to tell them that I was on my way. So how our hospital works is you're supposed to call the midwife's line to let them know that you're going to be on your way to the hospital. And our local hospital has a group of 5 midwives that deliver babies there. So I called them to say I was going to come. No one answered on the answering service. I don't know what was going on that day, but it was actually really nice because I called the local hospital and Dawn answered. And Dawn is a sweet, sweet nurse who works at the hospital who has actually now been there for our last 4 babies. She's been there when I've delivered, and I've had her for at least one other pregnancy, one other delivery for part of the delivery. It was a longer delivery, so she had left before I had the baby, but yeah, she's been there for the last 4 babies to be born. So when she answered, I was super excited to know she was on that day. And she told me that she would call the midwife, Erin, to let her know that I was on my way in. And Erin is one of my favorite out of the 5. There are certain ones that I like better than others, so I was very excited to hear that Erin was on, because Erin was there for our last birth. So we went in around 11. You live in a small town when about 5 minutes after I made the call, Dawn called me back and asked which birthing room I preferred, because we only have 2. Well, we have 3 birthing rooms at our local hospital. One is pretty much a closet that's like if we need the last one. But we very rarely do they use that room. So I was the only person in labor, and she was asking which room I would prefer. So that was fun to be able to pick which room I wanted. So Mom took us, we got to the hospital. I had taken some food to eat during labor and for Mark to be able to have. Again, we didn't know how long things were going to take. So the 4 babies before the last one, the 4 deliveries, I had gone from 5 centimeters to baby on my chest within an hour. And then last baby, it was 5 hours from the time they found out I was 5 centimeters till baby was on my chest. So I was more mentally prepared this time than last time. Last time I kind of got stuck at 8 centimeters and felt really stuck mentally. I don't know why this is happening. My labors have always been so fast. I hope there's not a problem, and just got mentally stuck there for a little while. Nothing was wrong with baby or anything. It's just how my body worked, but I wasn't prepared for it. So this time I just felt much more prepared that, okay, I don't know how labor's going to go. I'm okay with a slow labor. I'm okay with a fast labor, whatever's going to happen. So anyway, we get to the hospital around 11:30. I'm not really sure. I'm not very hungry. It was really nice. My midwife kept encouraging me to eat if I felt like it. And I just know that there's hospitals that don't allow women to eat when they're in labor. And I do feel that labor is kind of a marathon event. So it's really nice that she was encouraging me to eat if I felt hungry. And in some labors I have felt hungry, and in some I haven't. And I found that if I just listen to my body, it does what I need it to do. So I did snack on a few pieces of cheese and stuff during the labor. But sorry, something just popped up on my phone. So anyway, we got to the hospital. They were encouraging me to eat. We did all the initial paperwork that had to be done. They put me on the monitor, and I wasn't having any real hard contractions, but I could tell within about an hour of getting to the hospital that the contractions were changing from just inconsistent once in a while, these aren't really bothering me, I think I'm having a contraction type contractions, to they were becoming more regular, even if they were every 15 minutes. And they were just different. Like, I don't know. You could tell they meant business contractions, but they weren't, like, I could still talk through them. I could still walk through them. I just could tell that my body was realizing, oh, this is what we're going to do. So no medication was given or anything. It was just, okay, your body's doing what it needs to do. Around, like, there was a bunch of stuff. When you go to the hospital, there's a bunch of stuff to do. One of the things they had to do was to give me a hep lock, I think they call it, where they put something in your hand so that they can put IV fluids through it if you need them, but you don't stay hooked up to an IV all the time. That was how they were going to give me my penicillin for my Group B strep. And so Dawn, who's a wonderful nurse, this isn't against her at all, but she could not get the vein. Actually, she got the vein, but it wasn't releasing blood like it should so that she could put stuff in. And she didn't want to poke me a second time because I'm not a big fan of needles. So she didn't want to poke me a second time. She went and got somebody else on the floor to come try, and that person couldn't get it on my other hand. So they called the emergency department because the emergency room is really used to putting needles in. Like, they're really used to doing it on people who are maybe really dehydrated because they've come in with a stomach bug, or they've been doing drugs and so their veins aren't very good. Like, there's lots of reasons why the ED is really good at putting in IVs. So they called somebody from that floor, which was really nice because it was a lady that I had known because her son used to go to a summer camp that we worked at. And so that was fun to catch up with her while she was doing the IV and see how her son was doing and everything. So again, just a small town. Oh, and she used to work in the department my mom works in. My mom works in the operating room, and they were having a party that day for somebody who was retiring from the operating room. So it was just fun to be able to see, to just talk about some of the people that we all mutually knew. So they finally got my IV in at like 2 and got me the penicillin at like 2:30. And this whole time there's random contractions, nothing that was bothering me. I was trying to walk or sit in certain ways to be able to just keep baby getting in a good position for birth. But nothing was bothering me. Like, contractions were not a problem at this point. I remember at 2:30, I was sitting on the edge of the bed during the contractions, and the penicillin that they put in bothers me. It kind of burns when they put it in. So I had a hot cloth that I was trying to hold on the spot to be able to keep the penicillin from bothering me as much. The warm cloth definitely helps. And I remember looking at Mark and saying, I really hope labor doesn't go until 6:30 because I'll need another dose of the penicillin. For the Group B strep, they give you a dose of penicillin every 4 hours until baby's delivered. So I just knew that I did not want to be doing that again because it's just a painful process. So that was at 2:30. I was dealing fine with contractions. I'd have them and it'd be like, oh, this is a little uncomfortable, but nothing of a problem. Around 3, the contractions started to get painful. And they were coming more regularly. I don't know how regularly because time kind of goes out the window when you're in labor, but they were coming much more regularly. So at around 3, they changed that with every contraction, I was standing at the end of the hospital bed. They had this plastic seat thing. I don't know what it's called. It's some new thing that our hospital just got. But they had this plastic seat thing that they had sitting on the bed. So it was like, you know, this high off the bed. And I was able to lean over from a standing position and just kind of rock my hips during the contractions. And the contractions were painful. I was having back labor, but it wasn't terrible at that point. But it definitely, I could feel them in my back. So that was around 3 o'clock. Around 3:30, they changed even more, and I had to be on the bed on my hands and knees over this little seat because my legs were shaking from the pain of the contractions. Contractions are amazing in the fact that you feel pain during the contraction, but in between, things feel normal. And between contractions, we had some worship music playing, and even during the contractions, I was able to pray, and I was getting through each of them, but they were getting painful. So at 3:40, like this was looking back at doctor notes, at the midwife notes. At 3:40, I asked the midwife if she could check me because I was feeling pushy. I got stuck at 8 last time, and I was feeling pushy while being stuck at 8 because it's transition, and that's when your body's starting to feel all those feels. And so I asked her if she could check because I didn't want to push too early. And so shortly after 3:40, she checked me. I had not had any exams up until this point because exams aren't necessary. For a lot of women, they knew I was actually, well, they knew they were keeping me because my water had broken. It didn't really matter about what my contractions were doing because they knew that I was just going to be staying. And so they try not to do exams at that point. I asked because I wanted to not push early, but I also had decided that I wanted to ask for very limited checks because last time when I had asked for the checks, I got discouraged. It can be hard when you think, okay, I must be getting close, and they check you and they say you're 5 centimeters, and you just kind of feel like, oh, I still have so much work to do. And there's a lot of things besides just how dilated you are that are important to know. So like how thin or thick your cervix is important because your cervix has to get totally thin before baby can come. Also where baby is positioned in your pelvis, because if baby's really high in the pelvis, you have a long way to get baby down. But if baby's really low, then you just have a little bit to push baby out. So there's other things, but she checked me at like little after 3:40, and she said I was 7 centimeters, which discouraged me because I really felt like I was close. And I was thinking, I have 3 more centimeters to go, and this is really painful. At this point, when she checked me, I got to the point that my back labor was really bad, and I needed a lot of counter pressure. So Mark and the nurse were taking my hips and kind of pushing on the sides of them to kind of expand my hips and do some pressure so that I couldn't feel the back pain as much. Also, they had me, right after I had that check, they had me lay on my side with a peanut ball between my legs, and then they were just pushing on me from the top. And really, I just wanted them to push me through the bed with each contraction because I don't know if it made me feel better or it made me forget where the pain was. It just confused my body. I'm not really sure, but it definitely felt really good for them to be doing that. So this was, again, at 3:40, things changed and I needed them to put this pressure on me. Mark was getting some of his issues with dystonia, and I was really glad that Dawn was there with us because I was just able to say to Dawn, hey, can you do the pressure points because Mark is having a hard time. So this was, yeah. So I don't know, again, time is really funky, but 10 of maybe. The midwife came in and she's like, you're doing a really good job. I just want to know, do I have time to go use the bathroom? And I was like, oh, go ahead, just be quick. Because I'm still thinking 7 centimeters, we still have a while. And Mark asked if he could use the bathroom. So I was like, go quick, whatever. The midwife came back to the room. I didn't even know the midwife was there actually at the point that I said this, but I was laying on my side with all this counter pressure going on and everything, thinking I don't want to push too soon. They had said that if I felt pushy, I could do little pushes if those felt good, but not to give big pushes. So I was laying on my side, trying not to push, and suddenly I said, baby's coming. Like my body was just pushing baby out. There was nothing I was doing at that point. And the midwife came in, was there, I'm not really sure, but this was about the time she came. Baby was born at 4:01. So I think it was about 10 of, she left the room to use the bathroom. When she came back, she threw her jacket on the floor, threw on gloves, threw some type of drape or something under me, but it all was really fast, and baby came in one push that my body did. I didn't really do. It was amazing and intense, and God is good and gave me the strength to get through it. There's no way to describe how amazing you feel after childbirth. Okay, so I'll finish the story and then I'll go back to that. So I was laying on the bed, had baby. I didn't actually even know that I had delivered baby's head because they were moving me around to get this tarp under me and stuff, and baby just came out so fast with my body doing it that they told me to look down, and baby was born. And so they put him on my chest. He was super, super vernixy, which is really cool because that's good for their skin and all of that stuff. And he came really, really fast. He had good numbers. So they do this thing called APGAR. After they're born, they do it at 1 minute and 5 minutes, and baby can get up to 10 points, and it has to do with their tone and their color and their breathing. And he got 9 out of 10 at 1 minute and 9 out of 10 at 5 minutes. So those were really good scores. So that's just how they decide if baby's doing well or not. So he was able to be right on my chest that whole time. And then my midwife had asked if she could give me Pitocin through my IV, my hep block, when baby came, because I'm a multi-para mom. I think that's what they say. I've had multiple babies and I'm an older mom, so my risk of hemorrhaging is more. And she had asked if she could just give me the Pitocin as soon as baby was born to stop any possible bleeding. Not any bleeding, but like extra bleeding, hemorrhaging. And I said, I don't want to just say yes, just because that's the standard of care. But if you feel like, I might be bleeding a little much, we can talk about it on the earlier end as opposed to the later end of bleeding. So they put baby on my chest, and 3 minutes later, I had some gushes of blood. So we started the Pitocin. What we didn't realize right then was that my placenta was just coming very quickly after he was born and was out within 4 or 5 minutes of him being born, which would make sense why I was bleeding. But most of my births, placenta comes, 15 minutes later or something. So it was just very, very quick. And it's normal to bleed when the placenta releases, but we didn't realize what was going on because it was so quick. So I did get Pitocin to stop any extra bleeding. Because I got the Pitocin, or maybe even if I hadn't got the Pitocin, I didn't have extra bleeding than they expected. So, and then the placenta thing was fine. As soon as baby was born and put on my chest, we called the kids to let them know and to see their brother. And then we ended up hanging up the call after just a few minutes because we had the placenta issue and we weren't sure what was going on. We just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any medical emergencies on the phone call with them. And as soon as we figured out that that wasn't a problem, we called them back and they got to see their brother on my chest right away. And then they got to just see, we showed them the placenta after that came and everything. So that was just a fun little thing, because no one was allowed at the hospital with me this time, except for Mark. So back to the sense of accomplishment when a baby's born. This is not to say that women who deliver in some other way are not truly a mother, or that I've heard people try to say like you didn't really have a birth because it was a C-section or that type of thing. I'm not saying any of that, and I've prepared myself every time in case I need a C-section for some reason, because I know there are times that is what can save mama and baby's life. So again, C-sections can be a very good thing, but the sense of accomplishment when you deliver a baby, knowing that God has made this amazing, incredible, natural process to happen to bring a new person into the world, you feel like you've I don't know. I've never run a marathon, but it's what I think I would feel like if I finished a marathon, or if I won $1 million or made some amazing invention. Like, there is nothing in this world that I've experienced that is more amazing than giving birth. The whole process of pregnancy, where you get to feel the baby inside you for all of these months, and then giving birth and seeing this totally new baby that you're totally in love with, but you've never met. And to just see the perfect little person that God has made for your family, there's nothing more incredible. It's the best experience ever. It is painful and it is intense, and it makes you really dig into yourself and makes you really rely on God and realize that you are not in control. But it's also amazing and wonderful and great, even while it's hard and messy and dirty at the same time. I can't explain it. It is something that if you've never gone through labor and delivery, you wouldn't understand. And then there's the whole aspect of just the relationship between Mark and I. The fact that this little guy is because of our marriage and what God has blessed us with. But also just watching Mark go with me through delivery and trying to do everything he can to help me through the back labor. Like, this is something we had not experienced before. I had it with Virginia, but I had drugs with Virginia, and I was not sensing things the right way. So I know that this was different than what that was. But I just watching him love on me and want to just help me in any way he could, but there's things he can't help with. Like, he can't take away the pain. He can't take away the intensity, but he can be there and cheer me on, and he can pray for me, and he can love me, and he can hand me water between every contraction, which is what I felt I was asking for. He can just be there to support me and hold my hand even when there's nothing else he can do. And just the unity that it brings to a couple to go through that together, and to just experience God bringing a new little life into the world, that now God has placed this little guy in our family for us to disciple, for us to teach about him. And it's an honor, and it's definitely something that can't be taken lightly. God has given us charge of now these 7 kids that are in our household to love on, but to show them how to glorify him and enjoy him every day. And that's a big task, a very big task. And so, I don't know, I hope this birth video didn't scare anybody. I wanted to tell you the intensity of it, but I also wanted to tell you the beauty of it. And so I hope that this was an encouragement to you today, that God has made a special plan in making families and making children join the families. It's just a way that brings husband and wife closer together. It brings us closer to him, and just makes us, I don't know, realize how much we need to depend on him. When you see the newborn who is totally dependent on their mother for food and diaper changes and all of that stuff, we realize how much we should be depending on God in everything that we do. So, hope that was an encouragement. Thank you for joining us on Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God. We'll see you guys next time.